So it's been a while since we've done one of these, and I figured it was time because it's been like, what, a year and a half, and a lot of speedrunning this year and a lot of VOD channel uploads, but not a lot of main channel stuff outside of like the records and some highlight reels here and there. But I wanted to take the time to give a progress update because I feel like it could be a little bit before we have another record. I don't really know, but just wanted to make sure you guys are aware of what's going on and what I'm thinking, what my projects are, how we're feeling. So, as you guys know, the first 41 happened in February of this year, and only 7 months later, we were already down to a 41.03, which is ridiculous progress for having this community's only found like 8.7 seconds of time save for any percent this year. So that's a lot of improvement with not a lot of discoveries, and I'm hoping that we can continue this kind of path through next year, and I'll get back to that in a bit, but my current plan, you guys remember that back in the day, a couple of years ago, I was working on those explained videos, the Any Percent Speedrun Explained series. And the initial goal of those was to kind of de-rust my editing skills and get prepared for working on the documentaries detailing the game's entire speedrun history. And those videos, kind of the explained videos I'm talking about, kind of became kind of a fan favorite in and of themselves, and a lot of people have been asking me, like, when are you going to continue them? When are you going to finish them? My plan, now that things are starting to slow down again as far as strat hunting, we can only hope that I can get somewhat of a little tiny break to explain this stuff and make videos so people can get caught up to what's going on. But it seems that a little over 2.5 years later, we're finally reaching a slowdown again, where I think that once I get sub 41, which is only a few seconds and some change away, we're going to be working on the Explained series again, and I'm going to take it from the top down, or I guess we're going to take it from the top, I should say, and finish the whole thing, start to finish, like just re-explain the beginning parts and then go into the later parts, do the whole thing as one video, because I'm over these series, like serialized type videos. I'm not really a fan of that format anymore. I think that longer videos just tend to do better on YouTube now and kind of attract more of the type of audience I'm looking for, with like the longer attention span and watching long videos and coming back to them and stuff. I think that suits more of my style better. So we will be doing the Explain series. We're just going to do it as like a redo, as like one big video that's going to explain the whole run to get people prepared for what's coming next. And yeah, you guys have seen there's been a lot of progress made on the speedrun this year. We've done a lot of variety playthroughs as well, if that's your thing. You can see most of those on the VOD channel, but I have been trying to upload some of those periodically here throughout the year, along with some highlight reels, of course. We have a few of those cooking at the moment. I have a few editors who are working on those, which, by the way, if you're interested in editing for me, feel free to reach out. I'm open to having more editors, of course. But yeah, we have a few cooking at the moment, so you guys can get the highlights from the variety playthroughs and some of the speedrun stuff as well. But couple of things I wanted to talk about as well is, of course, talking about the speedrun progress and, what we've done this year and how that's going to play into the explain videos. But my long-term goal for speedrunning any percent Battle for Bikini Bottom and what I plan on doing once that long-term goal is completed. So at the moment, you guys could probably figure, like 41 happened and 40 is rapidly approaching, We almost got it in September if I just hadn't missed a single cruise boost at the end. I should rather say, if I had avoided missing one extra cruise boost at the end of that run, I would have gotten to 40 on that exact run, which is crazy that we could have gotten it so soon, just 7 months after the first 41. But my plan is to hopefully over the course of the next year to 18 months achieve the first sub 40 time in Battle for Bikini Bottom at 80%. And this would make, the holy trinity of Battle for Bikini Bottom achievements would be the sub-hour, which I got in 2017, the sub-50, which I got in 2019, and then perhaps we get sub-40 in 2026 maybe, if we're fortunate, 2025, if maybe we find some more stuff and I manage to get way better at the game. But I think that early 2026 is a pretty safe bet of, like, the earliest this would probably happen. I'm not sure, but that's my current plan, and I've spoken for a while now. You guys remember the documentaries that I made on the game's origins over 4.5 years ago at this point. I was going to finish those in 2020, but some things popped up as far as like unsureness about where the community was going, and rehydrated burnout and like wondering like where the community would be a couple of years even from that point, because people just seemed so burned out from the game that I wasn't really sure where the community was going to go. And the fact that, you know, the games done quick situation with the suspension that I had in 2019. If you don't know about that, I mean, it's pretty old stuff, but I have videos on it here that talking about that kind of stuff. And if you know what I'm talking about, yeah, that was something that I was not really too keen on having be the end of the history saga, because that coincided directly with the achievement of the first Sub-50 in 2019. That was where I planned on finishing the fourth part of the series that I was working on 4.5 years ago, where it would end with the first 49 and the GDQ suspension, with like the internet kind of like rallying behind the community and coming together despite, you know, the unfortunate trollage of GDQ that came from the people who were just like trying to like tear me down and like cancel me and all that. Like the original plan was to like kind of have like that response from the speedrunning community, like being on our side and defending us, is supposed to be like a direct contrast to how we were originally treated when we first got here in 2016, when people were kind of skeptical of the run, saying it was a joke, saying it was a meme and all that, like just to show like how far public perception of the game came from those few years, and like how I grew as a leader and like was able to like steer the community in the right direction despite such an unfortunate thing happening, right? That was kind of my idea for like finishing off the series, was finishing with that. But like I said, like I felt like it was more than likely, especially the way that like you hear things down the grapevine, that the game was probably going to end up back in GDQ someday, and it'd be kind of weird to like finish the series talking about like getting banned from something as like the second like point to like the most important point, which was obviously getting Sub-50. But there was that, and there was also like the community stuff happening, like a lot of like drama, a lot of burnout and stuff like that. So I felt like it was a bad time to work on those things and release them, knowing that there'd be more things to come to. And what do you know, the next year we had the Gamer Gunk strat. You guys remember the catch-up disc video? That happened after this whole thing was planned to conclude. Like we weren't even going to plan on covering that. And then, of course, all the runs that came after that, everything through the first, 48 wasn't initially planned, but I guess now it is. Everything from 48 all the way down to the first 43, and the return to GDQ, the GDQ run back and redemption into the first 43 was where I planned on calling it there and saying, okay, this is it. Like, this is where we're going to call it, and we're going to document everything from the development of the game. I guess at that point I was talking about like doing everything from the game's first speed runs all the way through the first 43, given that we finally closed the era of, you know, the GDQ drama, and we were like back in the event, everything was all good, you know. So I figured that would be the perfect time to end it, especially because at the moment I had been thinking about retiring because of all the wrists and physical issues I was having with, like, you know, like I had like all the problems with my wrist back then that I was dealing with, but we're all good on that now. Like we've totally healed at this point. And yeah, it just kind of felt like the perfect time to do it until, you know, we had the Sub-a-thon that lasted for 80 days, and then after those 80 days, we went right into the Cosmic Shake, and during the Cosmic Shake, the uncapped cruise boost, the UCB, started being used in runs, which completely revolutionized the game again. And then the crabs duping, the second dupe strategy, all of that stuff kind of came all at once and formed. It made 2023 the biggest year in the post-pandemic era of discoveries for any percent. Like, it's the most time saved in any percent found after 2019 was in 2023. So it was the biggest year for discoveries in 4 years, like since those history videos came out initially. So not that in and of itself wasn't enough to make me be like, oh, you know, we should really just wait a little bit longer to document the game's full history now, because like, oh, UCBs are so cool. That was only part of it. The other part of it is, okay, we're talking about like 42 happened basically for free because of that. We just got 41, and of course there was a lot left to spare in terms of time save after 41 happened. Now we're almost at a 40. So now we're talking about seriously trying to get a 39 in Battle for Bikini Bottom any percent. And that's my current inspiration. My original inspiration for the history series in 2019, when I first like conceived of it in my head, was it needed to happen now, because the remake was coming out, and Sub-50 was going to, at that point, I thought was going to be the like crowning achievement of the game's lifespan. But obviously, we're talking 5 years later now. I can't believe it's been 5 years, but it's now looking like Sub-40 is going to take that role in the narrative, I guess, that we're building around the game for people to kind of like watch and learn and remember us for what we did with it. So that's kind of how I'm feeling right now. Is Sub-40. I mean, if you look at it this way, like from my time speedrunning this game, it took me 9 months from starting to run the game to getting the first sub-hour, and then it took 2.5 years from that point to get Sub-50, and now it's been over 5 years and we still haven't gotten Sub-40. So needless to say, this is likely going to be it. Like, it'll take more time than I like perceivably have left able to play this game. Even if I play the game for another 10 plus years, Sub-30 probably isn't happening unless something like arbitrary code execution, like useful ace gets found, something crazy that like causes us to beat the game with under 75 spatulas. So that's what I'm thinking right now, is that there isn't going to be a bigger headline than Sub-40, and that means it's the perfect time to document everything from the game's development, all the games that inspired it, all the creative influence over the game, and what the developers are thinking and all that stuff, covering everything about the game's creation to help people build their appreciation for it, and also the platformers and SpongeBob games that came before it, actually giving them appreciation this time as well. All the way up to the first Sub-40 is the scope that I'm looking at for the improved documentaries on Battle for Bikini Bottom. And aside from that, like, obviously I'm older now. I have an enhanced perspective on speedrunning and gaming and Twitch and the internet and all that. I'd like to say I'm wiser now in some ways. So I think that compared to how they were handled before, which I don't regret the way the history videos were handled before, I think it's fun seeing like a 23-year-old's perspective on something up until that point was just up and up and up. 2016 through 2020 was just a pure joyride for me. It just felt like every single year we just kept going higher and higher, and I didn't know what it was like to go, like, to dip below the expected threshold for like growth for a year on Twitch and have a good year and a bad year and ups and downs. Like, we didn't know what that was like until after, like, the true test was really being had after, like, the post-rehydrated era, when it was all on us at that point, because the hype for the game in terms of the mainstream and cultural relevance on Twitch was kind of just at that point no longer really a big thing. So it's really just been up to us in this silver age of the game to keep things interesting, keep things going in our little niche fandom of the game that still exists. So what I want to do is focus on, like, again, these videos are going to be focused on a very large, broad time scale here that I want to use to help express my own growth and my own thoughts and my own what's going through my head, how I'm approaching all these challenges. Every single minute, every single second in some cases was a big challenge to overcome. And my long-term memory is pretty sharp. I can tell you a lot of the time how I was feeling during these moments, and I've learned how to not go overly in detail and pace things better. But I want to do this in such a way that you really get a feel for what it was like to go through the trials of destroying this game over the last 10 years and all the people who helped me do it. And that's kind of what I hope I can reflect on around 18 months from now. Hopefully by then we're either close to or we've already defeated the ultimate goal of beating Battle for Bikini Bottom in under 40 minutes. And then in that case we wrap it all up with a neat bow with hopefully what people will remember as some of the greatest documentaries in gaming history. And I really mean that, because you guys deserve that and the game deserves it. The first history videos I made in this game were met with such high praise. Everybody was saying they were 10 out of 10. They were some of the best videos they've watched on the website, not even just in speedrunning. I feel that we have to reach that standard, and I don't want to give you something that's, And I want to give you something limp. Like, imagine if we just ended it on like a 4103. Like, that wouldn't really be too satisfying. And, of course, there are still more stories to tell. Imagine if we had ended it on the first 43 in the second GDQ run. We would have totally missed out on... I've never seen this happen in a speed run before, where a 40-minute game counted in 60 frames per second breaks a minute threshold by 1 frame. 41:59.98. That's 59 frames. Like, I've never seen that happen, where a minute break happens by 1 frame. And like, after all these years, like, so many cool things have happened. Like, you can't make this up. A lot of this stuff, you can't just make it up. That was one of the things that was getting in my head, and I do want to talk about in the history videos when we eventually get to them around, like I said, hopefully 18 months from now, when we're all reflecting on this, is that, working on those history videos back in the day, I kind of got it in my head that, every mistake that I make in these runs, every failure that I have, every run that I lose, every run that I win, is something that's going to impact the history of the game that I have to then talk about and document for you guys to see. And it's like, I always got worried if I was doing the right thing to make it like the most entertaining, like living through the videos I was trying to make, and it just became a very burdensome, miserable experience, like trying to like pressure myself into like living through the best like timeline to document it. But the thing that really got me out of that mindset, I think, was getting the 43 on the same day of the GDQ run, because that wasn't in the script. I couldn't think of that myself. Like, it was something that, even if I had really like thought, like, if I tried to like stage something, which would be impossible for speedrunning in any way, but like, even if I could stage it, I still wouldn't have thought of that. And then the 41 happening by 1 frame, another situation where it's like I don't know how this game just keeps getting more and more interesting. So on one hand, you could say, it's been 4.5 years, why not just like do it already? But the way I think is, these are videos that are going to be around for a very long time. This game's not going to be speedrun forever. I hate to admit it, but it won't. Someday people are not going to be speedrunning it, but what we have to leave behind is, the stories and experiences and what we learned that hopefully, people who speedrun this game in the future, not just this game, but other games, can learn from the experience that I had and, all the people who helped bring it to where it is today. Or I guess like today as in like the day when we talk about all this stuff. But yeah, I'm not planning on retiring from the game. I'm definitely not going to just like stop after we get 39. Obviously, like, I don't have any plans to stop playing, but I do think that 39 will be the perfect and really only thing left that we really have to do to justify talking about what will probably be remembered as the very beginning of this game's history, or just the game's history in general. I can't say for sure. Obviously, I hope that the game continues thriving, and I hope that people still continue playing it and picking it up and figuring more things out about it. But I think that, Sub-40 is just the perfect time to do it. It really is the ultimate goal as far as this narrative is concerned, as far as the perfect place to stop for these documentaries to get people into the game. And like I said, maybe I mentioned this before, but when I first got the idea to make these history videos back in the day, obviously part of it was because I wanted to make sure people knew about the community and had that background going into the game when Rehydrated came out. But it also just felt right because Sub-50, like, even though 48 was bound to happen, 48 is not really part of the narrative. We can just talk as like a footnote at the end, like, oh yeah, by the way, 48 happened and these things were used to get it and so forth. Like, it doesn't need to be gone into in detail. We don't need to have the story build up to it. So even if 38 happens someday down the road in like 2028 or something like that, it's not going to change the way that I'm structuring this story. And I have been working on this. I've had, I have my notepad that I've been adding notes to and research and keeping all that tidy and getting ready to work on this and like really just crafting. I've scrapped it a couple of times already, the ideas I've had at this point, and it just keeps, getting scrapped and rewritten and scrapped. But I think that we've finally landed on something where hopefully we can get Sub-40 before something ridiculous is found, like that makes the game like 10 minutes long. I'd be okay with that happening after we get Sub-40, but Sub-40 really is the benchmark for which I'm going to use to decide, like this is it. This is what I want to talk about, and this is how I want people to remember this time that we spent playing the game. My entire adult life at this point, thanks to you guys, has been spent, streaming and just following this passion for the past 8.5, almost 9 years at this point. And it'll have been an entire decade when we're finally through the woods and we got that Sub-40. And who knows what happens from there, but I do know that what will happen is that we are going to tell our story our way, the way that it must be told, coming from the guys who did it themselves. So that's the plan. And as far as the 10-year celebration goes, I have been working on the Creo series. I don't want to talk too much about it because I don't want to overhype it, but if you guys have been paying attention to the highlight reels, you have seen that we have some concepts and illustrations coming out. Really cool. And I'll be talking more about that maybe around a year from now. Don't want to spoil too much though, but the stream knows a lot about that. So shout outs to them. And if you ever want to check in on what we're doing, you can always pop into my stream on Twitch. We're always talking about this stuff. I'm happy to answer questions about your concerns and interests about the videos that I make and the speed runs that I do. Oh yeah, one more thing is I'm planning on doing another Sub-a-thon next month. We're going to try to incorporate this the spirit of giving into it as far as the Christmas theme. I'm going to be using the Sub-a-thon to try and give back to speedrunners, help some speedrunners out, donate some subs to other people while we're doing a Sub-a-thon. After certain benchmarks, we're gonna just give subs to other streamers who speedrun. It'll be cool. Nice way to give back and motivate me to do another one of those things, because I was feeling kind of burned out from Sub-a-thons for a while. But I think that I've been thinking a lot about this year. I was thinking about making a donation to one of my marathons that I attend, but they said they weren't willing to take donations at this time. So I've been trying to think of other ways to give back to the speedrunning community outside of just donating to organizations that run speedruns. And I think that just giving back to just the people who run these games, just people who have probably never even had people in their chat before. Well, I guess they had to be affiliated. They must have had someone in their chat to be affiliated, but just people who they're averaging a couple of viewers just speedrunning some random game and just drop in and give them 100 subs. I just feel like that'd be fun. That's the kind of stuff that makes me enjoy watching Sub-a-thons and participating in them, because, believe it or not, I support other streamers' Sub-a-thons too. I'm not just only doing them, I also watch other people's Sub-a-thons, and I have been, trying to get back into the mood to do them. And I just figured, I think I need something more than just what we've been doing the past couple of years for the Sub-a-thons to really, motivate myself to do it again. Because it is a lot of work, and they do raise a lot of money, but I just feel like I'm kind of over just only raising money for myself. I feel like I need to do something more than that to really feel like I'm fulfilling my purpose on this website. So yeah, I don't want to drag on too much longer, but thanks guys for being patient. We have more things coming, and keep an eye out for that Sub-40, because it's not going to happen anytime soon. That's part of the journey. You guys got to stop in to see it happen. But I would just say don't be too impatient for things to happen, because we are living through a time right now that it'll be over very soon. These years are going to go by very quickly. And before you know it, there won't be another milestone like this to look forward to. So I'd just say try to enjoy it. I know some of this is probably me talking to myself a little bit, because, I kind of feel the same way, where I am excited to work on these documentaries and all the fun that's going to go into making them and all that. But, and finally, being able to sit back and watch and relive this time in my life that's meant so much to me. But I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way. It's going to be great, but we got to remember that we still have to live through it, and we still have to enjoy the moment while we're living through it. That was one of the things that I told myself during the Movie Madness Marathon, that, this is a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and you just got to enjoy it, and don't think so much about, where it's going or when it's going to end and whatnot. Just try to have fun. And as fun as speedrunning can be, not usually, but just trying to enjoy the satisfaction of improvement is what I'm trying to tell myself and also tell the fans too. Like, we got a lot to look forward to and a long and grueling journey ahead, but when it finally happens, it's going to feel all that much better when we finally get to talk about it in these very long and fleshed out but well-paced videos about our time speedrunning this game and revitalizing it on the internet when they had formerly been forgotten. So thank you, and maybe I'll try to do more of these more frequently if we don't get as many records in the coming months. I hope that we can pick up the pace again, because we were doing great this year. And the road bumps, you never know how long they'll last, but that's part of the progress. And yeah, hopefully soon, one of these days, you get to see the first 40 at some point. Who knows when. But I'm going to get back to work so we can do that, and take care. I'll leave you to it. Peace.